Hey, Chris.
All right. Well, I am lucky because we're all lucky actually because we are here with what I would like to call the epitome of a superstar in the making. And I am lucky because we get to be one of the first to talk to Maria Lopez about what's about to happen in her career. So Maria is a loan officer. She works at LoanDepot, as you could see from her background. And Maria has been in this business for about 5 years. She started off as a loan officer assistant and then 2 years ago moved into a loan officer role. Several months ago, made the move to LoanDepot, and mine is blown because she is helping so many customers get into homes, and I'm just amazed with how much business she's doing that I wanted to stop and make sure that we had a chance to talk to Maria because before she gets too big that she
You're so
doesn't have
sweet.
the time to talk to us, right? So this what I'm really enjoying about watching you, Maria, is that when you and I initially met, you just had this aura about you that you had a little bit of a chip on your shoulder, which I loved. You were able to, talk some trash with me, which I really loved. But then, you and I were doing a one-on-one about just business planning and things. And you said something that really caught my attention about how you ended up in this space and how you ended up, just being who you are. And every time you and I talk, you drop a nugget and I'm like, it's amazing to see where you come and how, how you got here and why people need to hear your story, because I think people need to hear about your upbringing, what your
Right.
your path was to get here, because you're one of the most successful loan officers in the business. And you said it to me the other day, I shouldn't have been here, Chris. This is crazy, right? So
Right.
I got to tell you, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to do this with me, because I know you're busy. But thank you so much for being here today. So everyone, this is Maria Lopez. So Maria, thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you. Well, thank you for having me. First off, I look up to you. I'm actually honored to work for Loan Depot. Prior to working for Loan Depot, I was unhappy where I was. I felt like I was stuck. I couldn't level up any further. And coming here, my energy has been boosted. I love your energy. First off, I feed off of your energy.
Thank you
So,
so much.
and everyone here, everyone is so helpful, so genuine. I feel like, there's just good vibes all around. So thank you for allowing me to work for you, regardless.
Well, it's so funny you say that, because that's not how I look at it at all. Because I'm just like, I'm always asking about you, like, hey, like to the people that were like, is Maria okay? Is she good? Like,
I
because
know, that's
sometimes I don't
awesome.
hear from you, and you're out busy, and I want to make sure that we're living up to the expectations that you had coming in. But tell me where it's all started, Maria, because like people, there's somebody out there that is
Right.
in the mold that you were in before you got here or got to the mortgage industry 5 years ago, that needs to hear your story, because they probably have some self-limiting belief that they don't believe that they can get to where you've come. So tell me about how, like, give me your whole story. Like, how did where are you originally from? Let's start there.
I'm from Mexico City. So
Okay.
I was born in Mexico City. Um, my parents split up when I was maybe 3 years old. My dad left my mom, had a whole other family outside from us. And my mom had no way to raise us, so she actually migrated to California. And for a long period of my life, I was raised by my grandma and my aunt. So I always like to say like that I raised myself. No disrespect to my mom, because she did what she could for us
Mm-hmm.
in the best way that she knew how, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I migrated here when I was 8 years old. Actually, like literally crossed the border. And I remember that day, like it's still very vivid in my mind. My sister was older. She was about 12 years old. I was 8
Mm-hmm.
years old. And I remember literally walking through the desert, and other families were like around, and literally immigration like stopped us. And in my heart, I was like, oh my God, we're going to go to jail. And amazingly enough, the coyote that, they call, the crossers got us across the border. And I'm always so thankful for that day and for how he went above and beyond to make sure that we made it across safe. And ever since I've been here, I felt like I've had it tough, not knowing English, always being looked down on because I was Hispanic, right? And I feel like I've worked so hard to be where I am today, in terms of even learning a different language, learning how to communicate, learning to build myself up. Because as a minority, it's hard to do that right here. So I feel like what I've created now and who I am now, I feel like I walk so strong with such a strong personality, because what I've been through in life has made me like what I am today. And that's why I love doing what I do, because I help people, who are in the same shoes that I'm in, who came here illegally, didn't think they had an opportunity to become homeowners. And I help them all. And I literally have seen people cry and thank me, and they still call me and invite me over to their house, or barbecues, or carne asadas, or tacos. And they'll still call me, just to chat with me, because throughout the years, I've developed literally long-lasting relationships with my clients. And that's crazy because I never thought that I would have that type of effect on people.
Yeah.
I,
Well, the reason is different people have different skill sets and different energies that they give off. And once somebody crosses a bridge with you, you become very easy to talk to, right? And I think but if I give you my credit, if I open up my whole world of finances to you, because it's very hard for me to trust anyone to do that with, you're in. We're having carne asada on Sunday from now on, right? Like, so you think about those people that have really, poured into you, and it's you, when you're in this business, you have to have the ability to build trust with people. And when you have the ability to speak their language, come from the same culture that they've come from, they look up to you in a way, because they're saying, hey, you have a piece of knowledge that I don't have. And in order for me to trust you, we got to have the same language. And when I say the same language, it's not necessarily that we speak Spanish together. What I mean by language is that I hear a dialect that you're speaking that brings me back home. And when you bring me back home, I trust you.
Yes.
And so I want to, but before I get into all that, I'm like, you said so much there that I had a lot of questions about. And so I'm going to back up a little bit. You said in the nicest way possible that you migrated here.
Right.
You walked through a desert as an 8-year-old with a coyote to come to America.
That was the scariest day of my life, because I literally, every time I look at a paycheck, like when I hit a good fucking month, when I'm like, holy shit, like literally, Chris, if you saw where I came from, you'd be proud of me too. You know what I mean?
I am proud of you.
Days like that make me feel like I'm a boss ass bitch. Like I made it, and that it just, and it's not for the money. It's obviously because I love doing what I do. Like I said, I've created so much friendships, not just with agents, but my clients and just people in general, just, hey, you helped my friend, or you helped my tia, or, I heard about you through this person. And it just makes me feel so good that other people loved me and they're recommending me. And I don't use social media a lot. It's so crazy, because I would say my business is strictly word of mouth. And my referral partners, who I've built obviously long-lasting relationships with, but I don't ever get a lead from social media. And they're like, yeah, I saw you on social media. So I would love to expand my business. I would like for people to get to know me, obviously, for who I am through social media as well. But I feel like I've been blessed to just touch people genuinely, me be me. And that's honestly what gets me up every day.
Well, so you said something that is important. But I've gone through that feeling of where you're looking at your paycheck and you're saying like, oh my gosh, like from where I came from to where I am today, you made the comment like I shouldn't be here, right?
Right.
And this is something that we have told ourselves over and over and over again. And when you and I sat down with our one-on-one, I remember thinking to myself, like, Maria, do you like I was trying to find out if you had a self-limiting belief that was holding you back from your greatness, because it's only natural for you to think to yourselves like, I probably shouldn't be here. This is kind of a fluke. But the truth is that you deserve every bit of it and more.
Thank you.
So I want to go back. Sorry, but and here's why. Because I think there's a lot of rhetoric in the world today around people who come to America looking
Yes.
for a better opportunity. And you are a perfect example of somebody who came over and contributed to society by helping other people understand financial literacy
Literacy. Yes.
to help them get into a home.
The
And
importance of credit. Yeah.
and we all know that if you have a family that's in a home versus bouncing around from rental to apartment, the likelihood of that family becomes highly more successful, and they have far more opportunity. And those kids have far more opportunity, right? So when you think about all the things, and you think about that you come from a broken home, and that you migrated to the United States, your perspective on life is far different from somebody who it's far different than mine.
It is. So it
Um,
took a long time to get there because I had to break a lot of chains in my heart from just emotional chains from, just, my mom was so busy working. I remember she worked 3 jobs just to get us papers. I never saw her. And it was hard for me to actually bond with her because I didn't have that bond with her as a kid. So now what holds me back from evolving to the next step in my career is being home with my 3-year-old. And I do mortgage with him on my lap. My agents are like, "Oh, is that Cruz? Put him on the phone." I love his little smile, and he's part of me. And to me, I just feel like when it comes to my kids, I I just have to be there for them 24/7 because I didn't have that as a kid. Then I when I used to talk about it, I used to break. Like I would cry like, "Oh my God," like, but now no, just having my family and raising my children and just watching them be a better me, just that's what keeps me going on a daily. Like my son just turned 18 and I bought him a car fresh off the lot. At 18, I was riding the bus, walking everywhere. You know what I mean? And just to be able to do that for my son, honestly, it's what I do it for. It's for my family, and it just makes me so proud just to know that he's proud of me. And he tells me, "Mom, like you work so hard. He's like, you're selfless." He's like, "Mom, we go to the store and you buy everybody everything, and you don't even think of yourself ever." He's like, "So for Christmas," he's like, "Mom, I bought you this because I remember we were at the store and you were like, I want it, but you didn't buy it. I got you." He just went behind
mhm.
why, he was doing things for me because he's like, "You do so much for others." He's like, "Even for your clients, even though sometimes the loan is going nowhere and you have to like help them open up a bank account or help with their credit." He's like, "Mom, you never give up on them." And he's like, "You literally inspire me every day." He's like, "You're reassuring. You always know what to say." He's like, "I feel like you've been through so much, you know the answers to everything."
Mhm.
So hearing my son talk about me that way literally just boosts my ego. Like it makes me so proud that he
It's all the
loves me.
validation you need,
Yeah.
right?
It's
Like
yeah,
this is why we do it. It's all the validation you need is from your kids.
for my kids.
And if they're looking up to you, you're showing them a path that in some ways may not have been shown to you, And so, Maria, take me back to the day that because I can remember things vividly from like being 8 and 9 years old, right? And it's a very
Yeah.
different dynamic because I don't think I understood fear the way that maybe you have understood fear.
Oh,
And you know, I don't know what it's like, right, to live in a different country and you're looking up to, you know, big brother country, if you will, right? The land of opportunity
the land of the free. Yeah.
and the land of the free, and to get there. And tell me about that. Like, tell me that day. Do you remember the day? Like, do you remember the prep of the day? Was what was your family talking about as you were getting ready to go on this epic journey through a desert?
So my mom, this would have been her second time, obviously, doing it, right? She came back for us. I remember getting on a train from Mexico
Hold
City.
on, hold on. I'm sorry. She went, came back. She went without you
Right.
to
And then
establish, and then came back to do it again with you.
she came back to get me and my sister. Yeah. So
Wow.
through her marriage with my dad, she had my sister and I.
Mhm.
So once she was established, she had a place for us, and where she felt she could support us. She came back for us, so we got on a train from Mexico City to Tijuana. We spent
How
the
long
whole
was
day.
that?
Tijuana.
No,
I
how
don't
long was like the train? Do you
the train
remember?
ride. I don't remember exactly.
Okay.
No, but I remember the day in Tijuana because
Okay.
um, we showered in a really musty hotel. Oh my God. It was like, I remember feeling, holy shit, this is hood, like in
Yeah.
my mind.
Even in Mexico, you were like,
Even
this is
in
hood.
Mexico,
Yeah.
I remember, and my mom was like, I'm sorry, this is all I could afford. And
Yeah.
to me, I was just happy to be with my mom because I was 3, when my dad left. And my mom, left as well. So I was just happy to be around her. But I
Goodness.
remember she slept with me and my sister on the bed and she held us. And it was the first time that I felt like safe,
Mhm.
because my grandma, she's everything, you know what I mean? But so just feeling that love from my mom that night, to me, that made me feel like I was going to be okay.
Mhm.
We had tacos. We walked up and down and we had ices is what they call them here, or
Mhm.
raspados. And,
Raspas, yeah.
so we just, we did that and she prepped us. She talked to us. She said, we're going to walk. It's not going to be a short walk. She said it'll be a long walk. We're going to have to carry gallons of water. We all 3 of us had backpacks on. She said the guy who's going to cross is a white guy. He speaks Spanish and he's really nice. I met him before. Just trust him and do what he says. So I remember he came. His name was Steve, and his wife was there, and she was like, "We got you guys." In Spanish, she's like, "No tengas miedo," She's like,
Mhm.
"Don't
Be
be
afraid.
scared."
Yeah.
She said, "Oh, you'll be fine." And he was dressed like immigration. He was dressed in all green. He had his hat on, and he had like handcuffs
So
and stuff.
so this dude that was your coyote, because when I think
He
of
was
a
our coyote.
coyote, I always think of like, so there's a famous book. I don't know if you've ever read it. It's called Devil's Highway. You probably don't want to read it, but it's almost like a investigative account of these individuals that had left, that they actually came in through Arizona border, but they got lost. Their coyote got lost, and so they just kept circling and circling,
Yeah.
and
Oh.
they ended up, like, many of them died through that process, right? So the coyote was somebody from Mexico bringing him over, but you got the, like, the top of the line. You got
Yeah. We got a
you got
white guy.
a white guy who was dressed like immigration that no one was gonna ask questions to. So do you guys meet him? Where do you meet him at?
So he came to Tijuana for us. So he had a big white van, and his wife drove the van across the border, and he walked with us through the desert to the van. So during our walk through the desert, immigration was actually there surrendering other immigrants, and we were, part of the surrender. And what he did was he told us, act calm. I'm going to put handcuffs on all 3 of you guys, and I want you to walk down with your head down. And we were like, holy shit, like, okay. So I was like thinking in my head, oh my God, are we going to go back to Mexico? And no, we literally walked as if, you know, he was doing his job. We met his wife at the van, and she threw us at the end of the van. We had to hide under the seats, and she like covered the seats with like, so once we were actually crossing the border, they just let him drive by, and we were like under, like,
Wow.
it was pretty scary. I always think
How long
about,
was that process? Do you know how long the entire process was from like that morning to you getting to your
I
destination in America?
yeah, I asked my mom, and she said it was a little bit over a day.
Yeah.
She said maybe 30 hours. So
Wow.
maybe, yeah, maybe 30 hours. And I always think of Steve. Man, I wish I knew where he was, because I feel like homeboy is a big reason of why we're here, because you think about a lot of like other immigrants, they don't make it across the border. A lot of people die there, women get raped, you know, kids get kidnapped, you know, and that's very real.
Yeah,
That's
not
like, that
The
happens.
Steves of the world aren't always the best Steves, right?
No, yeah,
You got really lucky to get through
the
unscathed.
way we did. Yes, very, very, very lucky. So I always think about him, and when I pray, and I'm like, I always like thank God for him, right? That
Oh,
we got
absolutely.
so lucky, that my mom got so lucky being, you know, by herself with two little girls,
Mhm.
that we actually made it across. So it was I always think about that day.
So
It's
you get
all
across and you're here. Do you remember like where you first ate? Do you remember like what your mom's place looked like? What was like the first like, you know, your first thoughts of now you're here? And then
my
what is
first
life
thought
like?
was like, oh my God, this is beautiful. Because my mom lived in Ventura, California.
Okay.
And she had I think a one bedroom or a two bedroom apartment. I think it was a one bedroom actually. But it was beautiful. I mean, compared to where we came from, like we came from the struggle. So, you know, I was like, oh my God, this is home. And it was just pretty, like all the, you know, the palm trees. And the first thing I asked my mom to do was to take us to, I was like, Mom, quiero ir a la playa. And she took me to the beach. And so I remember like what we ate tacos.
Was that the first time you had ever seen the ocean?
It was my first time that
Oh
I
man.
could remember, because
Yeah.
my mom was like, you know, when you were little, your dad was good, and he would take us on vacations to
Gotcha.
Cancun or Acapulco. And she's like, but you're too little to remember that. So in my mind, yes, it was the
Yes.
first time that I actually, you know, remember that feeling. But I remember sitting there, and the air felt so clean. I felt like, I don't know, like a different person, if that makes sense.
Absolutely it does. Yes.
And I remember, you know, us getting here and her enrolling us in school. And I remember not understanding verbally what, you know, the teachers were saying, but I remember them kind of looking down on me as if I wasn't going to be smart enough to comprehend what was being, like, you know, taught and stuff.
You remember that feeling as like 8, 9 years old? You remember feeling like
They looked down.
they looked down on you. Okay.
I do. I remember. So they tested me. They did a math test, and they did a reading test and a writing test. But obviously it was in Spanish. But I remember her, you know, saying, I couldn't understand her, but I remember her saying something along the lines that she was surprised that I was, you know, that I knew math. And in my head, I was like, I've always been outspoken, because, like I said, we had it kind of fend for ourselves. So I always have like this guard up, and I remember thinking to myself like, yeah, bitch, like I'm not dumb, you know.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
and and I always think of that day, and the day we crossed is always in the back of my mind, because one of the biggest goals was to always make it, obviously, right? And you come from a Hispanic family, where you come from Mexico, you don't have papers. I didn't have papers until I was 18 years old. And so when I did have a job, I was working illegally, right, at McDonald's through high school. But
Mhm.
I remember having to work and having to help my mom, and you know what I mean? So, and I just now I just feel like I've come so far that
Mhm.
I feel like I need to help other people in the same situation, because had I known all the stuff that I know now, all the help that's out there, for people, immigrants and stuff like that, I wish I knew that. You
Yeah.
learn things as you go. No one teaches you financial literacy, credit, like no one teaches you anything like that. So now when I do get my hand, not when I do talk to clients who are like, barely speaking English and they're here, they're DACA, and they need help, and if I can help them get their credit up and I just walk them through the credit repair, even though I know, okay, you're not making enough money, eventually you will be there. I just do it for the help, because I know that they're going to thank me later, because whether it's going to get them into an apartment, whether it's
Mhm.
going to get them into a car, right? Like whatever it is, I know that I've touched them and I've helped them, and they're going to remember me, right? Because they're going to say, Maria helped me, and then so whenever they do think of me, they're going to call me and just probably say thank you, or whatever the case is. So I remember doing that to my teachers who, like my ESL teachers, who were like so kind and warming,
Mhm.
and, were just held my hand through, helping me, learn and speak English. Was like, people would make fun of me because of my accent. And now I'm like, I love my accent. Like
Absolutely.
I don't look down on it anymore. And when I was younger, I hated it. And I'm like, but now it just makes me me. It's who I am. So
It's amazing how that works, in terms of how our brain works. There were things that I always felt weird, oddly ashamed of. Um, like I had these friends who, a lot of my friends growing up all went to college,
yeah.
and then I would go, like they would come back for the holidays, and then of course I was always working, so I was still around, like while they're all coming in for the holidays, to go hang out and hit the bars and stuff. And I remember we would go to these like these trivia situations, and I didn't know any of the answers, right? And they would like love this stuff, and it was like all, and I mean, I always felt like just
An
subpar. And then
outcast.
I kind of had this chip on my shoulder going into like settings in business where I felt like everybody would kind of make these jokes that I didn't understand. And and um and so anyway, I finally, like one day it hit me that why am I ashamed of this? Like, I'm actually really proud that I didn't go to college. Like,
Yeah.
and to the point that like, I don't know that I would really push my kids to do it if they didn't want to. Like, mainly because I didn't feel like I had to at some point, or because and looking back, I don't know that it really would have helped me, because everything that I am now started from 16 years old to 21 years old, and learning how to talk
To
to
build
people and
yourself
build
up.
relationships and truly sell. I went door to door. I did telemarketing, all that I could have learned in college. I could have learned a lot of other things. I could have learned how to party like crazy, right? I mean, I did my fair share of that, but like, it's weird how our brain works. That like, in your case, it was your accent that you were, like you were saying, I hated it, but now you embrace it. And
Embrace it.
because you realize who you are is something to be embraced, right? And a lot of times I think we find ourselves um, carrying these chips on our shoulder that we created because we're ashamed of something that no one else really ever mentioned being ashamed of. And they always say, like, you got to love yourself first, before you can really. And when you find that, it's really a cool thing, because I think that when you find it, that's when your confidence rises. And
Yeah.
and so for you, you went from, so you're working at McDonald's. Tell me about your career. Like, how did you go from working at McDonald's, which, by the way, like I worked in fast food. I worked at a pizza place when I was growing up.
Mm.
You know what I learned from that? I hated it. And
I
and I would
hated
get
it
I would get I would
too.
get these weird pains in my back, like when I
Oh,
was 16 years old, like weird, like, because I was like I was washing so many dishes and stuff. And I'm like, I'm 16 years old. I shouldn't have these like back pains at
I
16
know.
from, doing manual labor, right? Or whatever it is. So I vowed I'll never touch food for money at that point. And then I went into telemarketing. But the reason I asked you this is like but what I did learn was process flow. Like, I remember them teaching me like how to open and close the shop, and it was always a process flow. Like, you did this before you do this, you did. So like then when I look at like mortgage process flow, it all made sense to me. Like, you can't get to here unless you've done this. You got to, like, everything is a process, a
Yeah.
checklist, and you can't cut corners. But what did you learn, like, through that process when you were working, you know, in McDonald's, and then where did you take it from there to, and by the way, if I didn't say this, you do like 4 times the amount of an average LO. You're
No,
helping 4
really?
times as many people as an average loan officer in the country. So you are
Oh.
doing remarkably well, right? So how did you get to that, like, from your career perspective?
Well, I would say I worked really hard. So when I jumped off to be my own individual LO, I was scared. I wasn't ready for it. I had been working for my current branch manager, and he taught me the ropes. I started doing. Oh, hold on, Chris. I'm so sorry.
No,
I
you're
need to
okay.
put. I started doing basically turn down loans, and
Well,
I
hold on,
started
hold on. I'm stopping you. I'm so sorry. You went from McDonald's straight into this, or there was something in between?
No. There was something in between.
How
So
did you get there? Like, I want to know all your stuff, because there was a path to get to this. Go
right.
ahead if you need to.
So I worked at a call center. I worked at Sears.
Okay. So there you go.
So I worked as a bilingual customer service rep, and then I would walk people on how to like set up their washer and dryers. And I did that for a long time. I think I was there like 8 years. And I started as a rep, and then as a lead, and then as a manager. I left as a manager.
Hold
And
on one
I
second. You
just
were in a Sears call center.
call center. Uh-huh.
And I'm sure there was like a knowledge base, like a database of knowledge where you can go to and understand somebody's problem, and then you would go and read them how to fix it, and eventually just kind of learned? Or did you actually literally have to know how to, like, hands-on fix a washer dryer and
No,
connect it? Okay.
no, I would just read. I would just, walk them through it, like literally on the phone. Sometimes you would spend like a whole hour with them on the phone. But so they'll call and say, "Oh, I just bought my dryer, and I can't get it to work right." And then you would just, ask them, "Okay, so what's wrong with it?" And then you would figure out, "Okay, you didn't do this. You need to remove the cord," and then it dropped.
Yeah.
It was things along those lines. But I remember my department was helping people in Puerto Rico. So I remember, like, I loved it because those people are like, I'm sorry, not those people, but Puerto Ricans are like, they're just so vibey. Like, they would be listening to
Yeah.
music. And I remember, like, okay, like,
You picture that. You
I
picture them in
felt,
like this villa with the ocean
yeah.
behind them, right? Like they're trying to connect there. Yeah, I
So
totally
I
agree.
remember I would vibe with them, and then I loved it. For some reason, even doing that, I felt successful.
Without a
Um,
doubt, because you're
with
getting wins at the end of the day. Like, somebody can now wash their clothes, or somebody's better off because they talk to you, but also you're learning people through all that whole experience, right? Like,
Yeah,
that's what I loved
learning to
about,
vibe.
I used to love building rapport with people on the phone. Like, as soon as I got them on the phone, I was like, this is going to be a good call. Like, you feel energy through the phone, which is what you call vibing, right?
Yeah.
Like, it's like, it's a cool, thing to have, and a cool skill set to have. So you did this for 8 years, you said?
For 8 years, and it was my
Yeah.
first job, Chris, since I got my papers, because I had
Okay.
worked at McDonald's.
Under a
And I
different name, or a different?
Yeah,
Yes.
under a different name, because I remember I had bought that social off of a
Yeah.
lady that my mom worked with.
Yep.
I bought her social. It was her daughter's social, and I worked it for a very long time. I also worked at Sonic after I worked at, and Sonic was my longest fast food job. I worked there for a very long time. But after I worked at Sonic and I got my papers, and I remember getting my green card and having to go get my like fingerprints taken, Sears was the first job who called me and hired me as a rep. So, and then after that, I did payroll for a Denny's franchise owner.
Okay.
And I did payroll for 19 different stores in Rhode
Wow.
Island.
Yes.
Yeah. Give me a second. I have to plug
There.
in the laptop. I'm so sorry.
Go ahead. Yeah, I see you fidgeting, and I was wondering what you're doing. We can cut this piece out, so take your time.
Okay, good. My laptop is gonna die, so I'm so
No, you're
sorry.
good. You're good.
But Yeah, I did payroll for 19 different stores,
Wow.
Denny's and Bahama Bucks,
Okay,
and
so this is cool because you're learning, right? Like
I'm
you're
learning to
learning
deal. Yeah.
numbers
Mhm.
and you're learning talking to people. So you took all this call center information and how to like vibe with people, and then you jump into like, in my opinion, one of the most boring things, but probably really helped you on the number side to really understand like how you build a P&L, how you build
Yeah.
the numbers, right? And then you took all that, and then where did it go from there after the Denny's piece?
So I'll let you know like how it ended there. So he hired ADP, and it was cheaper for ADP to do the job. And I was there with him for a long time, and it crushed me because I remember feeling like I loved it there. I had like a process. Like I would get shit done,
Yeah.
Like I knew all the the managers, the store managers. I knew the assistants. You know what I mean? Everybody would call me. I just felt like it was home. And he was so chill, like, and so laid back that um I loved working there. So once he's like, Maria, I have to sell these stores. I'm only going to stay with a couple stores, and I'm not going to be able to afford you. And he actually was honest with me. He's like, ADP could do it for cheaper. So he let me go, and I remember feeling lost. I'm like, oh, where am I going to work? And
Where's
I
your son
remember,
born at this point?
yes, my
Okay.
18-year-old, yeah, my
So
18-year-old, he was already born.
your first time, you're now dealing with some serious adversity, right? Because losing your job, do you remember that day, what it was like? Like, do you
Yeah,
remember
I
sitting in your
cried.
car, like after you found out, and what was that moment in your heart? Like, what did it go? Did you have like this, I'm never going to make it? Or did you immediately feel a sense of, all right, next, on to the next, like, what am I going to do next? Like what happened in your mind in that sense?
I was crushed because I felt like, um, in my eyes, it was the best job that I had ever worked at.
Hmm.
So without a degree, right? I didn't go to college. I didn't have a degree. So then I put my resume out in Indeed. I went home and I cried that night. I was like literally in tears because I
Hmm.
cried
I
all
can only
night.
imagine.
I'm
Yeah.
not even. I cried and I put out my resume, and then I get a phone call the next day from this guy named Steve Lines, and
I know
he's like,
Steve.
"Do you?" Yeah.
Yeah, I
So
know Steve.
Steve calls me. He's like, hey, I opened up a mortgage company. It's called Ventana Loans, and I need a loan officer assistant. And I was like, I know nothing about mortgage. I'm like, I have no experience. Like, I don't know how I would be good to you. And he's like, you'll be perfect. Come in and interview with me. I interviewed with him. He's like, you're hired. Can you start today? And I was like, I was so thrown off. I was like, what? I was like,
Yeah.
sure. And he taught me the ropes. He
He
said,
was a trainer, right? Like he teaches, he
yeah, he
teaches
taught
mortgage.
mortgage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
So
like that's how I met him. I was getting like in the recession, I was getting a real estate license because we were trying to open up a property management firm, and there was a mortgage section of that option, and he came in and trained it. And very like, he's a very nice guy. I mean, one of the
he's
nicest
so
guys. But
awesome.
if you were going to learn, that was an amazing guy to have learned under, because this is what he does. He trains
That
people.
he's such a good person to know. Like
Yeah.
he's just if you know Steve, like if you know Steve, he's just awesome.
Hmm.
So he hired me, and I ended up killing it as a loan officer assistant. I guess he's like, everyone was like, "You're so good," blah blah blah, and I was like, "Oh, okay." Like I just remember knowing the concept. Okay, what's the concept? Getting a loan closed. Okay, send
That's
me a
it.
needs list. This is what we got to do, right? So, and
Yeah.
then once I got licensed is when I was able to start, obviously running credit applications, and it was a whole different scenario. But the business didn't do good, so they let Steve go, and Steve actually got me a job at Academy Mortgage.
Okay.
um and it was Academy Mortgage on Bell Vista here in Gilbert.
Yep. I remember that.
And
Who
yeah,
did you work with
so
there?
I assisted Chris Bussing.
Okay. Okay. He's still there, I think.
And so Chris then took us to AmeriFirst, and
Oh, that's right. That's right. Okay.
and then they let him go, and I stayed, and I started working for a team who does a lot of builder loans,
Mm-hmm.
and then from there I'm here now.
So, okay. So let's talk about this, because one of the things that I see in mortgage is there's a couple of things that happen with diverse individuals. And, you know, when I think about diverse individuals, which is basically the community that we're serving, right? It's a mixture of all, you know, races and genders and everything, you know, in between, right? And so you look at the person as an individual, and there's people that just in general vibe, as you would say, they vibe with people like them. And so when you have a culture in a type of industry that is predominantly, you know, one thing, it's really hard to embrace this up and coming generation of diverse individuals. It's nothing, I don't think it's systematic by any means. I just think you have to make a commitment to the community to serve them. And so when I look at someone like you who's helping the community, that's really what interested me, because you had an amazing story. You had a really good knowledge of the industry. You were an LOA, so I was like, she knows loans, she knows what to do to package them. But then I realized this chip on your shoulders situation that we were talking, and I was like, I like her. Like I want to be friends with her. I want to go have beers with her. Because you know, we were laughing and we had a really good conversation. But how have you felt in the industry? I mean, in terms of, you know, being diverse and being Spanish speaking, because here's the other thing I'll tell you. I noticed that a lot of Spanish speaking individuals that I've talked to, not all, but a lot, will say, yeah, but you gotta help me get out of Spanish clients. I don't want to deal with Spanish clients. They're harder clients. I don't have time for it. And I always say, but you have this superhero, you know, gift of
You
speaking
do.
Spanish to help people. And you almost have to use it. You have to, God's given you this gift and you have to use it, or you've given yourself this gift. Whoever, you have this gift, you have to use it, and you're using it. But what are your thoughts on everything I said in terms of, you know, you're coming up into the industry? Did you notice pockets where people may not have, you know, resonated well with you through that process?
Yeah, I mean, actually, when I started at Academy, and Chris, you know, he allowed me to assist him, even though I was like brand new and I had no knowledge other than what I learned with Steve Lyons over at Ventana Loans. I remember this, and I remember that, you know, they would look down on Chris and they would say, oh, he doesn't produce. And I remember building up his pipeline, and I built it up to 10 loans, and I closed that shit, you know, like, and people were like surprised. And it was, I remember it was 2.2 million. And, you know, people were like, well, did Chris help you? And, you know, that made me feel good, because I'm very competitive, and I'm like, and when I do something, I'm like, yeah, I did that. You know what I mean? Like I felt good that other people recognized what I was able to do, because other loan officers at the branch didn't want to give me the opportunity, right? Because they looked down on me. They thought I wasn't going to do well, right? They were going to have to train me, or whatever the case was. Chris was like, he didn't micromanage me at all. Chris was just like, here you go, do it, you know, like,
Yeah,
so that was the best way to learn, like, because
it
I
is.
felt like he just threw me, and he just threw me out there, and he's like, okay, well, how's this loan doing? And eventually I was just running the pipeline. And you know, I just started learning different things, learning guidelines, learning how to read guidelines, because once you know how to structure, outside from selling, you're freaking golden. If you can structure, you'll do well in the industry. If you can sell and you can't put a fucking loan together, then I mean, what are you going to do for people? An agent's going to say, okay, I'm bringing you all these leads, but are you going to close a deal for me? You know what I mean? Like, and that's how I feel that I was able to obtain a bunch of the realtors that I work with now, my referral partners, because at first, you know, they would just give me turn down loans, and they would see I was actually turning them or calling them 3 months later, hey, this guy is ready now. You know what I mean? So I feel like I had to work my way up for them to give me family members their own deals, like,
Yeah.
hey, I want to refinance my house. So I've actually helped 4 of my referral partners get into homes that they're currently in now, and that to me is like, that's amazing. You know what I mean? Because a lot of people you work with, they don't want you to see their financials. They don't want you to see what they make, you know what I mean? Or their credit. So when people allow me to help them, it just makes me feel like they trust me to, on a whole nother level. And it's hard to build trust with people that way. So, and I always think to myself, like, I feel like God put me on this earth to help because I came from so much struggle. And I felt like throughout my years of my struggles, no one helped me. And I felt like I had to do it all alone or learn by mistake. And whenever, I can help someone, and it doesn't even have to do with mortgage. Sometimes it's not even with credit. Like, it's just helping them in general. It's what makes me me, and I feel like that's why I do what I do. So it's just to be able to help.
Well, so how do you remember the crossover from going from being an assistant, right? So you kind of have this umbrella protection of an LO that you're aligned to, that you're not really required to get business because you got somebody helping you with the pipeline. But when did it switch over for you to say, okay, I'm ready to do this. I'm going to go out there and do it on my own and build a name for myself. When did that take place?
It wasn't willingly. I was actually scared. It wasn't by choice. So I was working for my branch manager, and we were doing a bunch of builder loans. And then I met a recruiter at Starlight Homes.
Okay.
And she invited me to lunch, and she was like, I want to hire you as an LO. And you don't have to, look for business. Business comes to you. And I remember accepting the job, and they flew me out to San Antonio, and I spent like a couple of days there training. And when I came back and I was actually placed at a community, I hated it. Because I was being micromanaged. I had to be like in the office. I was like, this is not me, So I remember calling my branch manager at AmeriFirst back where I worked at prior to Starlight. I was like, I want you to, I want to come back. I want to be, your assistant again. And he was like, if you come back, you're coming back as an LO. You're not coming back under me anymore. And I remember feeling crushed. I was like, oh, I put myself in this worst situation. And Chris, I came back in January. January of 2020.
Yep.
And March, I closed 1.6 million of my own business.
Yeah.
And I remember I was like, oh my God, I remember feeling like, and then it continued. And I continued closing above $1 million that whole entire year. And, after, I was able to see how many loans I can turn, and I was meeting agents in Casa Grande, and I was Hispanic, and there was not a lot of Hispanic, loan officers out there in the business. They were introducing me to their partners, and eventually they were just feeding me business, and they were liking me. And I was driving to Casa Grande to meet with people, and I just built a reputation for myself. And it's been all uphill ever since then.
You built a brand, and you built a name for yourself. So I love that, because there's nothing I love to see than someone like you who has a different upbringing than 99% of the people that are in this business. And through all this adversity, you figured out how to even brand yourself, right? Like to get a reputation out in a marketplace as somebody who's willing to get in their car and get the job done. And so how did you end up here? Like, what attracted you to this company? What attracted you to, because you have, like when I look at the numbers for where you were prior to even now, you've continued to just grow your business. What attracted you here? And, well, let's start there.
It was you. I wasn't
Thank
happy
you.
anymore where I was. I came in and I met with you, and in my heart, you made me feel comfortable. One, you were Hispanic, and and that was important to me because I felt like I'm going to be able to talk to Chris
Mhm.
and not feel embarrassed about, where I came from or talking about my story. And I just remember conversating with you, and I felt like if I knew you for a
Mhm.
very long time, like I felt like we were vibing. And first off, I remember walking in, I'm like, hey, this dude's sharp. Like, you were all dressed up. And I'm like, I came in and I wasn't even dressed up, so I'm like, and you just gave me a good vibe. And I trusted your word. And ever since I've been here, I felt like you've delivered, like you weren't bullshit. Like, 99% of other branch managers, like, they fish you in and they're like, yeah, we'll do this. And it's all fake support. There's no real support. And I feel like here I've experienced real support. And you've always made sure that I was taken care of. And I love that about you because I'm like, it's hard to trust people in the industry to know that they want you to do well. Because when I started doing well out of Mera First, they were questioning where I was getting my leads, if I was stealing them, like, and they're all Hispanic. And I'm like, what makes you think a Hispanic's going to come to you? You know what I mean? Like, let's just be real. So there was a lot of things that pushed me away, from where I
Mhm.
was. And I just feel different. No one questions where my leads come from. They're not like,
Oh
did
gosh,
you
we
steal
want you to
them?
win. We just want you to win.
Yeah. And that's
There's
how I
never,
feel here.
I mean, that's really it. And look, thank you for saying that. And I wasn't necessarily fishing for that piece of it, because I don't think that what we do is necessarily specific to me. But I do believe that what lands people at companies are the chemistry that they build with the individuals that they're going to partner with. And you and I had chemistry,
Yeah.
and there's a trust level there, that I immediately felt, same with you, because I don't get that all the time. I talk to a lot of loan officers and I pass on a lot. I'm just like, I don't think that that's a good vibe for me. If I had a conversation with somebody the other day that all they kept talking about was money. What is this person making in your branch? I saw them. I saw, what are they? I'm like, when you stop thinking about the money and start thinking about helping people is when you're going to make more money. And I always say
Exactly.
that, like, if you just help more people, you'll make more money. I've never looked at it as in terms of like, if I work with this person, what do I make or anything like that. But with you, I wanted more of you. I wanted 10 people like you. And I realized that you're very unique in who you are, because there's not very many people I've ever met with that have your aura, your energy, and your ability to communicate. Like, you're a communicator from somebody who was felt looked down upon in elementary because English was a second language, to be able to use that language and communicate your energy in the way that you do. It's amazing, and it's why you're winning. And I
Oh,
just got to
thank
tell you,
you.
like, you're going to continue to grow, and it's why I wanted to get you on, because your story is amazing. There's been times today that you're telling a story and I'm holding back tears because I think about what it would have been like for my 8-year-old, 9-year-old
To go through
daughter
that.
to go through that, and to be the one to tell her, like, hey, you're going to go for a long walk and
I
you're going to have
know.
to carry some water. And to get through that is super tough. But you now are at a place where you're here, you have your papers, you've done something extraordinary, and you're going to continue to grow, Maria. Like, I'm so proud of you. And so I got to
Thank
thank you for
you.
coming on the show today and sharing your story, because there is somebody out there that needed to hear this story to remove the barriers that their head is telling them they can't do. And I hope that it's somebody that's young, that's up and coming, that hears this and says, if she can do it, I can do it.
I can do it. Thank
And
you.
so how do people get a hold of you, Maria? Where do they find you?
So they can call me on my cell phone. They can find me on Instagram also.
What's your
Uh,
name on
under
Instagram?
Mortgage Gem One. So Mortgage
Mortgage
Gem One.
Gym One. Look
Yeah,
for,
and
go ahead. Sorry.
no, you're fine. Other than that, like I'm on Facebook, just my normal name, Maria Lopez. No crazy name, and then my cell phone or my email.
Well, Maria, guys, if you've heard this and you're inspired, reach out to Maria. If you have any home needs or any refinance needs, or you're looking to purchase a home and you want to work with somebody who is going to get you to the finish line and take good care of you, call Maria. Maria, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you,
I am
Chris.
honored to have you, and I hope to do another one of these with you down the line to hear how you've taken your business to the next level.
I'm ready to kill it. I'm ready to grow. I'm ready to level up. Like I just feel like this year will be my year. So hopefully
Well,
you're here to watch.
you deserve it, and I'm not going
Thank
anywhere.
you.
And you deserve all the success you have coming to you, and there's going to be a lot of it. And I can't wait to be there with you when you do it.
Thank you, Chris.
Thank you so much, Maria.